Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Heather Houston, Director of the Francis A. Carnes Center for Gifted Studies, here to bring you the latest EAGLE video. If you have seen our introduction to EAGLE videos, you'll remember that EAGLE is our acronym for the idea that excellent activities generate learner engagement. Today, we will be discussing measuring what matters for gifted students. If you are joining us from anywhere in Mississippi or in another state that uses Mastery as a guideline for any element of your gifted education regulations, you may wonder, what is Mastery? Well, in Mississippi, our gifted regulations contain this statement, and I quote, "Gifted students in grades 2 through 8 shall not be required to make up classwork missed when they are scheduled to be in the gifted classroom. Gifted students shall be held accountable for demonstrating mastery of concepts and information on regularly scheduled tests. It shall be noted that some gifted students will not be high academic achievers for a variety of reasons. It is not reasonable to expect intellectually gifted students, artistically gifted students, or creatively gifted students, by virtue of having been granted one of those gifted eligibility rulings, to make all A's and B's. The exception is academically gifted students who have been ruled eligible based on exceptionally high academic achievement in the pertinent area being served." So again, what is mastery? From a historical perspective, mastery learning was a concept that was developed in the 1960s by Bloom, who believed that all students, regardless of the initially observed ability level, could master concepts taught in school. Mastery in this research meant that students earned scores on class assessments within the A to B range, scored the highest ranking on a rubric, or earned a mark of distinguished in rating scales that use that terminology. The percentages we usually see accompanying the concept of mastery then were not assigned on a per student basis, but were the conceptual belief that with appropriate instruction and adequate time, 90 to 95% of the students in the class could master the material within the course. This means that for individual students, we go back to the concepts of the AB range, highest ranking on a rubric, or distinguished performance. There is therefore no exact cut score for an individual student to prove mastery as it was originally proposed. It is dependent on the school's grading scale, the rubric for a performance assessment, or evidence that the student performs in a way that is distinguished. So what is distinguished? According to the Oxford Dictionary, distinguished is an adjective meaning successful, authoritative, and commanding great respect. In my personal experience, grading student work in every grade level, from kindergarten all the way through graduate school, the word distinguished brings to mind the feeling of gratitude and excitement that you as the instructor begin to feel for a student when you read their work and know that they have truly taken ownership of their work. They can understand it from multiple angles and have applied it well to one or more situations. That is not as easy to operationalize to make classroom decisions for your high ability students as your AB grading scale would be. So for practical purposes, that grading scale does become our fallback. It may not be ideal, but it is extremely useful for identifying students who are ready to move forward and those who need more time. Bloom readily acknowledged that students must move at their own pace in order for the class to achieve that 90 to 95% mastery overall. He did not want to see the normal curve represented in students' final performance evaluations. And this difference in time is what prompted the need for differentiated instruction. In fact, Bloom's colleague, John Carroll, developed a formula to understand the instructional use of time, in which the time spent on a subject was divided by the time needed to learn the subject. And this ratio is what became known as learning aptitude. So using that formula, we can see that if a student comes into a class and the time needed matches the time spent, all is well. The student seems to have a normal or average aptitude for learning. If a student needs more time, they are said to have a lower aptitude, simply meaning that they learn more slowly than the average student. And if a student needs less time, they are said to have a higher aptitude. Again, simply meaning that they learn more quickly than the average student. So when you hear a school or an educator, or anyone else for that matter, use the word aptitude to label students as good or bad, they clearly do not know the true meaning of the word. It is more likely that the school or educator is utilizing poor instructional practices that perpetuate the gap between understanding of those who learn more slowly and those who learn more quickly. Bloom believed that if we allowed students with a lower aptitude to take the time they needed, then as they move forward, they would not be trying to scaffold new knowledge on a poor foundation. Okay, now that we know what we mean by mastery and that it is important for determining the pacing of instruction in our classrooms, we can look at a very practical way to identify students who need an average time, more time, or less time to achieve what we want them to in our classrooms. One of the most practical, quick, and efficient ways that I have found to adapt the concept of mastery to differentiating learning in real time in the classroom is the concept of most difficult first that Susan Weinbrenner promotes in her book, Teaching Gifted Kids in the Regular Classroom. I highly recommend getting a copy of Weinbrenner's books and keeping them on hand. She provides answers to the questions you will surely have as you try this strategy out, and you will have questions. I'm not going to try to share everything she discusses in her book here, but I am happy to help you critique your use of the method if you contact the center with specific questions, or even send us a video of how you did. For now, I will give you the minimum information just to get your wheels turning. So start by thinking deeply about the assignment you're going to give your class. Identify the 5 to 10 most difficult questions in the assignment. Make sure that they represent the skill that students must master. When you provide instructions for the assignment, include a star or asterisk next to those items. Explain to students that while most of them will need to complete the regularly planned assignment, some students may have already learned the skill and may not need as much practice. Provide an appropriate amount of time for students to complete the assignment and offer the opportunity to complete the most difficult first questions to all students. Some will attempt it and some will not. Students are pretty good at knowing when they're ready for this kind of challenge. When a student brings the most difficult first questions to you to check, and they get the answers correct, or their errors do not pertain to the skill that you are checking, then they are allowed to move on to something else. Students who do not have the questions correct will need to finish the full assignment or complete the other learning activities you have planned to teach that skill. If you use most difficult first as an early check or even a pre-assessment, then your gifted and high ability students have already shown the mastery required by the regulations. The time they save is time you do not need to make up with them. If they earn an A on the most difficult first questions, then record the A as the grade for that skill. This can be helpful for students in the gifted program as well as high ability students who may not be in the gifted program. Remember, there are different types of giftedness and a wide variation in ability among students in any of the gifted categories. Not all intellectually gifted students are also academically gifted, and not all academically gifted students will be intellectually gifted. That is why you may have straight A students who are not in the program offered by your school. Each program is designed to meet particular types of learning needs, and not every program is the best fit for every type of giftedness. Two things to remember. One, you cannot keep a child from going to the gifted classroom if they do not do well on the most difficult first assignment. That is against the law in Mississippi. Gifted programming is a right, not a reward, in the same way that special education services are a right for students who need them. And two, you must plan extension activities for those students who do show mastery with the most difficult first strategy, so that their time is used to meet their individually appropriate level of challenge. Here at the Carnes Center, we try to meet students at their appropriate level of challenge so that they learn good study habits, understand their own ability to overcome difficult things, and so that they are not left behind by poor teaching practices that do not meet them where they are. We use Weinbrenner's books as textbooks in some of the courses we offer in our educator development program. So if you like what we talked about today, be sure to look into the educator development program and see if it's right for you. Educator development program participants may earn CEUs, gain badges for their achievements that can be added to their resume and online portfolio, and may be invited to work with the Carnes Center as a registrant assistant, teacher, or even as an ambassador. We look forward to hearing how Most Difficult First has worked for you, and we can't wait to see you in the Educator Development Program. From the beautiful campus of Southern Miss, thank you for being here with us, and remember, make your day golden.